Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Thank you so much for joining today's Tridium Talk on the WebWiresheet. An exciting new feature for our impending release of Niagara 4.11. Again, we are so thankful that you have joined us today and are looking forward to discussing this new feature in depth. So as part of our Tridium Talks, we'd like to ensure that we're providing this content in kind of a routine manner so that our community is able to be up to date on some of the new exciting features we have planned for upcoming releases of Niagara, as well as that, so we're really all on the same page. And before we get started, I'd like to cover a few ground rules associated with the Tridium Talk. And we want to ensure that you have the opportunity to ask as many questions as you may have on the feature, or really just in general about Niagara. And please feel free to ask any question that you may have throughout the presentation, just using the Q&A button located at the bottom of your screen. And at the end of this presentation, we will try to answer as many of those questions as possible, of course, time permitting. And any of the questions that we do not answer, we will ensure to respond to offline. And then following that, we will have a copy of this presentation provided on Tridium.com under our events tab, so that you can watch this at your own time or at your leisure going forward. And then you will also have access to the Q&A from this presentation. We have two nice artifacts to use going forward for your efforts. So without any further ado, let's get started. All right. So before we do, let's check in and see what's new with Niagara, because there's been plenty going on. 2021's been an exciting year for multiple reasons. One of those being that Niagara 4.10 is now available. And more specifically, we just released an update build to 4.10 about a few weeks ago. And you can expect to receive consistent update builds to 4.10 throughout its lifespan. And the reason being is because we have designated 4.10 as a long-term supported release, which means we are committed to producing routine update builds throughout the lifespan of 4.10, which at a minimum will be 2.5 years. So you can rest assured that if you choose to standardize on 4.10 or our customers choose to standardize on 4.10, you're going to have that critical support for a minimum of 2.5 years. And you've got a number of great reasons to upgrade to 4.10. With every release, we're going to ensure that we're driving value in accordance with our core tenets of Niagara: visualization, deployment, security, connectivity, and certification and compliance. And there's plenty of great, truly useful features here in 4.10 that I think will entice you to pick up that version. And certainly from a customer standpoint, it does provide that critical stability by virtue of the fact that it is a long-term supported release. But let's move on to the more exciting things. This is why we're here. Niagara 4.11. It's just around the corner. And beta is ready for your consumption. So we just released beta about a week ago. And if you are interested in participating as a beta tester, please feel free to reach out to the email address listed down here at the bottom. And just a quick qualifier, beta testing is intended for live or production sites. So if you've got a customer out there that is ready to pick up some of the newest features that we have in 4.11, such as BACnet Secure Connect, for example, feel free to reach out and please do so, because we're looking to get this installed at as many sites as possible. And really, we're looking for your feedback, because your feedback is what drives our product forward. Without your expressed approval, without your buy-in, most of these features aren't really, they're not going to hit the mark. So we appreciate in advance of that participation, we appreciate everything that you do and are certainly hoping that you would be willing to sign up as either an early access or beta customer. So from a 4.11 perspective, of course, we're here to discuss WebWiresheet, but as you can see, there are a number of very exciting features, from BACnet Secure Connect to the archive history provider, which is an exciting new feature that we've introduced to help our customers handle histories that are exported to a relational database, to some of Edge tool updates that are going to help you manage your Edge devices and really going to save you some critical time. And then following from that, of course, TLS 1.3 web charts enhancements. We've just got a number of just excellent items here in 4.11 that I think are going to delight you and hopefully our customers as well. But while we are here, right, we're here to discuss WebWiresheet, which is something that's if you're like me, I've been just incredibly excited to discuss this and more importantly to use it. So let's discuss why you would want to use WebWiresheet. Well, frankly speaking, it's going to save you an incredible amount of valuable time. And the reason being is because traditionally, if you were going to have to make any Wiresheet changes or programming changes on site, you would need to have the thick line of workbench with you in order to make those changes. And now you can just access the station via a browser and be able to make those changes accordingly. So instead of having to set up an instance of workbench at your customer's site, now all you need to do is just simply log into the browser and get going. And then it's really going to achieve, it's going to improve your user experience because you're getting a fresh view, it's available in the browser, it's an HTML5. So it's going to take advantage of some of the inherent benefits that that type of visualization is going to provide. And then following from that, it's going to enhance your workflow efficiency. Because now you can program on the move using your preferred mobile device. So let's say you like to use an iPad, for example. If you were on site with a commissioning agent, you need to make a couple programming changes. Break out your iPad, log into the browser, and get going. And you can do it on the fly, so you don't have to log around your PC. It just gives you that extra flexibility to accomplish a task, which at the end of the day is really going to add up and be a major time saver. And then when we talk about that flexibility, we have multiple customers out there who like to use a Mac. And we've heard feedback from the community that they wanted us to extend support to the Mac ecosystem. And we're not quite there, but this is going to give you that first critical opportunity to give it a try. Because what you can do is you can now use that iPad, for example, use Safari to log into your station to get started. So a number of huge benefits that you're going to get. So how do you use WebWiresheet? All right. So, traditionally speaking, what you're going to want to do is, well, log into the browser, right? So let's log into the browser and let's see what it looks like. All right. So I'll jump in right here. And so as you can see, this is the standard view that our customers would see when logging in to a station via browser. But now you see that Wiresheet. And a fundamental prerequisite for this, just important for you to know, is that in order to access this, the user has to have right privileges associated with their account. So if I don't have right privileges, admin right privileges, I'm not going to be able to access this view. So that's a critical thing to know, because customers might have a question that, when I make this upgrade to 4.11, our customer is going to start seeing a Wiresheet view associated with a folder, for example, for this particular use case. And as long as they do not have that admin right access, they're not going to see it. And then also a potential option that you can use is that you can use the basic HX user. And again, all these things can be configured under the user profile. And you can utilize that as the target profile view, and you will not bring up the Wiresheet view. And then another thing to note, this is something that's exclusive to the browser. So when you're in Workbench, you're just going to still see that same old Wiresheet that you've grown accustomed to interacting with and have grown to love, hopefully. And so you'll still have that view, and it's been preserved as such. So what you're seeing right now is our zebra theme. So let me log out, and I want to show you what it looks like for our Lucid users, because there are certain customers out there that prefer the Wiresheet and Lucid, for example. And so let's give that a try and see what that's going to look like. So here is the view in Lucid. Of course, if you want to know how to set up a theme, that's all set up under the user profile. So you can select whether you want Zebra or Lucid, or perhaps you've created your own custom theme, which extends Zebra, for example. So as you can see here, you've got a number of icons here up in the top, which we'll review here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into my preferred theme, which is Zebra. I wanted to ensure that I could show that to you. All right. So let's review a few things that you can do now with Wiresheet. All right. So first off, what we want to do is let's start off with options. So Wiresheet options, if you note in the corner, you'll have your settings gear, and that's going to bring up those essential Wiresheet options that you otherwise would have found in Workbench. And one thing you might notice, and this is new for 4.11, are these nice Boolean field editors. So traditionally in 4.10, or previous versions of Niagara, you had a checkbox which indicated whether something was true or false. And we heard multiple feedback from customers indicating that that caused some unintended confusion for our customers. So 4.11 features a fresh new Boolean editor that I think is going to follow much more modern UI principles as it relates to selecting something as either true or false. So this is going to be something that's going to pertain to all Boolean field editors. So let's say that you have them utilized on a PX page. When you upgrade to 4.11, you'll start to be able to use this new Boolean selector here. And then, of course, in any other inherent views to the framework, you'll start to see these as well. So they will show up in Workbench as well. So this is kind of a fresh, small feature here for 4.11. But as you could in Workbench, this essential option is going to give you the chance to adjust the Wiresheet size, whether I want to show the grid, status colors, links, and relations. So of course, I want to preserve all those settings because they are indeed important to me. So another thing that we still have here, you got your thumbnail. If that's something that you've utilized for critical navigation, you still have that. So you can continue to use that. But let's jump into a much more comprehensive Wiresheet, because I want you to see one that's you might have seen on site, because some customers have a propensity to organize their Wiresheet such that they know where everything is. But I wanted to present you a Wiresheet where you just have things scattered everywhere, just so you can kind of get a use case of something that's organized versus something that's just, well, perhaps this is a reflection of my mind map and just the way I see things. But if you notice, for example, one thing that you're going to have is, of course, you're still going to have your status coloring. So you notice here, I've got a supplier filter status and I've got a dirty filter, so I need to do something about it. So with this browser access, you're still going to be able to see those critical status effects. And then similarly, let's say that, for example, I want to override a supply fan off. So let's override that off and I'll leave it permanent. So what you're going to see with that is you'll still have that status coloring for override as well. So that'll that behavior that you have grown accustomed to seeing and interacting with in Wiresheet, you do have that here within WebWiresheet. So I'll turn that to automatic control. So, and as you can expect, you can still do all the standard resizing of the components. So that is still available for you. And then let's go ahead, and then of course you can move this around on the page as you need. But what I want to do is kind of take a look at the alarm service, because I want to kind of interact with this palette sidebar here just to show you the drag and drop. So let's say here, for example, this is a floor Jace that's serving a supervisor. But let's say that I wanted to create a console recipient so that my engineers on the first floor can just have their own console view. So again, you can drag and drop. Say this is the floor 1. And then, of course, I would route everything to this console. So as you can see here, it's just that same type of behavior as it relates to dragging and dropping and linking. And then next question you might ask is, well, what about relations? How does that work, for example? Now you can still do relation mark. So let's say if I want a relation mark and I've got an exhaust fan here and I want to relate it to this air handling unit. And I want to say, I'll call it AHU ref. All right. That's my AHU ref. And again, so you can see here, the relation link was created. If I wanted to delete that, I can delete it as such. And then also, let's say that, for example, from this interface, I wanted to edit tags. You can do that as well. And the reason why this is nice is because this is going to take advantage of the new HTML5 Tag Manager that was introduced in 4.10. So some of those incredible time-saving mechanisms that you have in 4.10, you can see that they're starting to build now with 4.11 because your browser experience is much more robust and comprehensive. And so let's view, for example, if I want to pin slots, that's something you can do as well. Let's say that I don't want to see next time, I don't see next value. As you would see here, but like, oh, wait, it didn't show. But what I would need to do is just do a simple refresh. And of course, they will go away. All right. And then in addition to that, let's say, I want to do a compositing, for example. Let's say I have a Boolean writable point here. And let's say I've got an extension. I want to put a discrete totalizer on it. And I just want to show that. What I can do is go back to my floor, and then I'll say I want to pin slots, or excuse me, composite. And I want to show that discrete totalizer because I want to know the amount of time that it's been active, for example. And let's say I just want to use this one, for example. So I composite that. And then, of course, I would want to show that as well, and then you can pin those slots accordingly. Another thing that you can do is I can reorder the glyphs on the page. I can do my essential link marking, for example, that you've grown accustomed to doing. And then, of course, deleting is just through the right-click menu. You do not have the ability to use the keyboard for the delete functionality. So that's an important thing to note. In addition to that, we do not have hotkey support. So hotkey support means you can't do your Control-C, Control-V quite yet. You still have to use your context menu for that effort. So let's take a look at some of the items up here at the top related to zooming in, zooming out. So as you can see here with the magnifying glass, I can zoom out, or I can reset the view to the default level. Similarly, I can zoom in or simply click the default magnifying glass or to return to the default setting. And then for the undo and redo, what you can see here, for example, is you'll notice is that when I click undo, I have the option to select which function was previously enacted, I can undo that one. And then in addition to that, I can, so I can move the slots and you can keep on going forward. And then of course I can redo that functionality, but of course it's going to require a refresh. So that's an important thing to note, is that you kind of want to refresh quite frequently, because if you ever see any changes that you don't see enacted on the page, just quickly do a refresh. You could just do a Control-R, for example, and you can see those changes taken into account. So let's go back to the presentation, because one thing I wanted to review is some of these critical things that you can do in 4.11, because we've got a just incredible range of functionality that's provided here for the Wiresheet, but we have some things that we have decided to build and deliver in the next version of Niagara. So let's quickly review that so that you are aware of what you can do in 4.11. So again, as it pertains to those critical context menu commands, you have your copy, paste special, your undo, redo, delete links and relations, edit tags, edit links, go to link. And then of course, go to link component, pin slots, relation mark, composite, delete, link mark, etc. And then from an editing functioning standpoint, you can link and relate via dragging, you can move and resize components. And then of course, dragging and dropping from the palette and the nav tree, that is something that you're able to do as well. And then from a display standpoint, of course, you have the zoom in, the zoom out, the reset zoom. You have your tooltip displays on your hover. And then of course, the thumbnail and grid options are there for your use as well. So from a functionality standpoint, we've tried to cover as much as we can that's available in the existing Workbench application of Wiresheet. But we still had some things that were on the to-do list that were just unable to make the cut for 4.11. And you might ask, as soon as you pick up 4.11, well, why isn't this functionality in there? And the reason being is because we wanted to get you this view sooner than later. And the reason being is because it really harks back to what I mentioned previously during this demonstration, insofar as that your feedback is absolutely vital to the success of this product overall. And that pertains even to features such as WebWiresheet. So we wanted to get this into your hands so that you're able to use it and provide that critical feedback, so that with the next version of Niagara, which is Niagara 4.12, we can get all that feedback incorporated accordingly, so that when you get the final implementation of WebWiresheet, it is something that truly delights you and our customers. So a good segue from this would just to be, what's available or what's going to be coming in 4.12 that's not available in 4.11. So we've got a number of kind of major efficiency improvements, and some of that's going to be associated with the ability to link and relate via the nav tree. So I'll just be able to drag from the nav tree onto a Wiresheet and be able to link and relate, which is a huge time saver, because traditionally, in order for me to do that, I could drag from the corner here. So if I wanted to relate as such, I could do that. Let's say, I wanted to, even though that's already there, of course, let's say I wanted to, make it a child, for example. Now I can do that, right? I can drag and drop like that, which is incredibly useful. But as you can imagine, being able to select entities from the nav tree, select them accordingly, and then be able to drag onto the Wiresheet is a major, major time saver. So that's some of the things that we're going to be providing in 4.12. Multi-select with touch, that's going to be something that's absolutely essential, because you're not going to have that control key that you can invoke while you're trying to do multi-select, for example. And then dragging a bog file into the browser window, double clicking to edit a text block in the dialog, which is of course another thing that you can do here, because let's say that I wanted to create a text block and I wanted to note, hey, look, this is purely for, energy optimization. And that's just so that I'm letting the people know, for example, that's coming behind me, hey, this is what this does, for example. So you've got the ability, of course, to pick a number of options here with your text block. And then if I went back, see the text block here. And of course, as you've grown used to, you can resize those text blocks accordingly. And then of course, if I want to delete it, just delete as such. And you're going to always have that kind of warning dialog just to confirm that you are intending to delete that object. So a couple critical context menu commands that are not available in 4.11 but that will be coming in 4.12 will be duplicate, select all, select link, copy and paste from file space, export, arrange, and then the show on Wiresheet, the right-click command that available in the HTML5 HX profile. And then from a display standpoint, there are a few things that you may or may not use previously with Wiresheet, like such as the color picker, the font chooser. Those things are coming in 4.12. And on top of that, you're going to have the lawn Wiresheet as well, which you'll be able to use. So that's something that's a little bit more particular, obviously, to installations that are featuring lawn devices or lawn networks. But that's something that we had in Workbench, and we wanted to ensure that we are providing that as well now that we have moved to the browser. So a number of exciting things here that you can start using today as soon as you pick up 4.11. So again, let us know if you want to sign up for early access and beta testing. We would be honored to have your participation. And as such, there are a number of great resources and materials that you can use while you're testing or just while you're interacting with the product in general. And you can always find those on Tridium University. We've got a number of interactive resources that you can utilize for your efforts. And you should start seeing some 4.10, 4.11 stuff pop up there here shortly. And of course, as I mentioned previously, you can find this Tridium Talk as well as a host of other great discussions on Niagara topics at Tridium.com. You go to the service support, and then under the events tab, you will find every recorded Tridium Talk. And so I certainly encourage you to use that whenever you have the time. And then, of course, James Johnson has been routinely producing fantastic Niagara pro tips. So you've got the opportunity to utilize that link down there. Log into YouTube, search Tridium, and you'll be able to pick up those videos and then use them for your efforts. So we are now at the opportunity where you can actually ask some questions, which is something that we're certainly looking for you guys to provide. So without any further ado, let's see what we got. All right. Questions here? All right, let's start bottom. All right, so any date yet for the availability of 4.11? So 4.11, we are hoping will be released in the next quarter. So probably mid Q4 is what we're hoping for. So that's something that you'll be able to pick up this year. All right. Let's see. All right, we had a question from Justin Johnson. What's the timeline for the program service to operate in an HTML5 view? That's something that is certainly on the timeline. We do not have it pinned to a specific version of Niagara, but that is something that is on the roadmap. So, those critical workbench views are something that we want to provide in the browser so that our customers have even more flexibility to do what they need to do. All right. Henley, yes, you have a question if it's possible to test 411 at one of your buildings, please reach out to our beta queue, the email that I brought up previously, or this email. Let's go back to it here. This one right here. So if you want to contact Tridium beta test at tridium.com, please feel free to do so. All right, Ian had a question about the archive history provider. He wants to know if he can see an example of it. That's a great question. We've got it coming in a few weeks. So the archive history provider will be a TridiumTalk discussion. So you can look forward to seeing a demonstration for that coming up. All right, Lorenzo had a great question. He wants to know if we have plans to have Niagara fully manageable via a browser, all station backups, adding modules. Requires Workbench, yes, but it can't be done via a browser. So yes, we are going to be building out more interfaces, web interfaces going forward. And whilst it might not have full parity with Workbench, we're going to focus or concentrate on those views that you're interacting with on a day-to-day basis. So for example, Niagara Network, getting those critical point and device manager views developed is something that is certainly on our roadmap. And with some of the upcoming releases of Niagara, we do anticipate to deliver that. Thanks, Lorenzo. All right, let's see here. Is the Wiresheet feature going to be available for other brand OEM products? Yeah, absolutely. They are rebranding the core Niagara, and as soon as some of the OEMs are, well, as soon as 411 is released and the OEMs pick up this great version, they'll be able to rebrand it accordingly, and absolutely, you'll be able to use it with some of your customer sites. We had another question. Are we going to have a Tridium talk on BackNet Secure Connect? Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I think that's going to be the one that should be coming up next. So certainly stay tuned. We'll provide an announcement for that accordingly. David asked, can you do a BackNet Discover via Wiresheet? No, not at the moment. You are not able to do that. You still have to do all discoveries via your point manager view. All right. Let's see. All right. Matt Webb, want to know if you are able to navigate to the Wiresheet of third-party drivers. So the Wiresheet view is going to be, of course, it's available by default in 411. So that's going to be a view. Let's say if you add a folder under a driver, for example, your Wiresheet is going to be the default view. So if it's a custom implementation, let's say you have a custom third-party driver, what I would recommend is that you sign up as an early access tester and give it a try. Of course, we don't see any reason as to why it wouldn't work, but that's going to be dependent upon the manner in which that driver has been developed. And that's why early access and beta testing is so important, is because it gives you the opportunity before taking this to a customer site to give it a try. And if you can provide us any feedback on your experience, some of the issues or problems that you might have run into, that's going to help us too. So if we can get that feedback prior to releasing it, we can ensure that as soon as 411 is ready for the market, it's going to be that much more robust because it's already had you taking a look at it. You've already tried it out with your third-party application or your custom application, and you are going to be aware of the pitfalls or whether you're able to deliver it right now. Thanks for that question, Matt. Will the Wiresheet be an additional license? No, that is it's included. So you can, if you've got a station, for example, I've got my Jace, I've got it at the default, and I set my static IP on my computer. I can log into that second NIC and start Wiresheet programming via a browser. So no special license feature that's required for that. All right, Chad, great question. The plans to develop Workbench that's supported for Windows 11. As you know, Windows 11 should be released here by Microsoft in October. And as soon as that is released, of course, we've got our eyes on it and are just trying to get a final determination of what that ultimate release is going to look like. As soon as we do, we'll pick up the OS and we'll determine the efforts required to extend support for the Niagara framework. But yes, that's something on our roadmap because we know how critical staying up to date with, especially Microsoft from a Windows standpoint is. So yes, that's going to be something that we're going to be focused on, Chad. And as soon as we get a solid release from Microsoft, we'll be investigating that. Jack, you had a great question. You mentioned, for example, that the WebWiresheet is great. Looking forward to using it. But you were saying that you had some additional workflow enhancements that you would hope be added to Workbench. If you have any specific comments, ideas, thoughts, anything, please feel free to reach out anytime. Reach out through your sales support channel. Reach out to tech support. Post on the Niagara community. Let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback. Again, the community is what keeps this product going. And your perspective is absolutely vital to our success. So please feel free to let us know if you have any particular thoughts. All right. So this is actually a great question here. A few folks have been asking about 410. And when I say long-term release, it's 2.5 years. That's a minimum of 2.5 years, Chad. And that's a minimum, right? So it might extend for a little bit longer than that, but we put it at a minimum of 2.5 years. All right. Can you do PX configuration through a web browser in 4.11? No, you cannot do that quite yet. Yes, it is on the roadmap. All right. Let's see here. All right. Looks like we've got some more questions coming in here. All right. All right. So UX Media. No, UX Media is actually available in 4.10, so you can start using that today, Tim. And again, Wiresheet is a default view that will work. And it's not something that requires a specific license. So I believe there was an anonymous question about whether this would work if I have a closed NIX statement, of course, and the rebrands of Wiresheet, or excuse me, the rebrands of our product will be able to take advantage of the Wiresheet functionality that's available in the browser. All right, Jeremy, thanks for that enhancement request. Chad, 2.5 years started on, in March of this year. That's when the official start date of support for 4.10 begins. Ben, that's a great question. Ben would like to know, he would like to see HTML5 CSS formatting eventually be available for the text block. It's a great thought there. Thank you for your feedback. AJ Mills, yes. Admin right privileges are required in order to access Wiresheet from the browser. All right. All right, well, thanks again. We really appreciate everyone's participation today. Especially the folks that have put out some questions here. We greatly appreciate your inquisitiveness and are hoping that you continue to provide us as many thoughts, suggestions as you can handle, because again, that feedback is so critical for our product. All right. So thank you so much again for joining today, everyone. I hope you have a safe and healthy rest of your week. And again, 4.11 beta testing, early access testing is now available. Please feel free to reach out, Tridium beta test at Tridium.com to get access. We're ready and willing to get your feedback, and we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your time today again. Take care.